goodness. Oh, hello. Hello. The 9th of, I think it's the 9th of April. I'm very certain that it's the 9th of April. 9th of April 2024. It's about 1 p.m. or maybe a little bit before that. And, geez. Now, do you remember the day when Eddie Murphy was a big rising star? And 1982 was Beverly Hills Cop, followed in, or it could have been 1980. I think Beverly Hills Cop was 1984 because another 48 Hours was in 1982. 48 Hours was in 1982. 1984 was Beverly Hills Cop. 1987 was Beverly Hills Cop 2. Those two films were big, can almost be considered classics. They're not perfect. The Beverly Hills Cop and Beverly Hills Cop 2 are not perfect films by any means, but they have very credible lines in them. Where's the telephone? The telephone's in the next room. Where? In the alligator pit? Jesus, Billy. Beverly Hills Cop 2, memorable, practically classic, and it was. Coming to America. Eddie Murphy was on. He was on top of the charts. Eddie Murphy was on top of the charts back in the late 80s, and then what happened was 7 years went by, right? 7 years went by, and I purchased this. I purchased this the other day. Last week I purchased this from Rockdale. It was $3, and well, I think I should have just paid 20 cents for it. Now, the thing is, it was directed by Jonathan Landis. Had a budget of $50 million. Not too sure where that $50 million went. I remember when Beverly Hills Cop 3 came out of the cinema, there was a huge anticipation for it. The air was electric. Huge anticipation. That was back in the day when, in George Street, when you had Village, Great Union and Hoyts all in a row, right? The classic days of Sydney, the classic days of George Street. And because I remember the premiere, I don't think, I went with a couple of my friends, me and about 3 other friends, we went to see it. And something's on the floor here. Look, big queue. There was a big queue, right? Really big queue for it, and really big queue for it. At the time, I mean, Beverly Hills Cop 1, the first one, and Beverly Hills Cop 2 were they were huge movies at the time. Big. And Eddie Murphy was big. He was big. It was just huge. It really was. Back in that era. And I remember the queue. We went to either the premiere or a few days later. Probably a couple of days later. And I'm not sure if it was premiere. Honestly, I just don't remember. I know there was a huge queue. No one was saying Beverly Hills Cop 3. As we were closer and closer to getting our ticket from the box office back in those days, when you got a ticket from the box office, you didn't have to get them online because there was no internet around. Oh, please tell me I pressed record. I think I pressed record. Oh, I did. Everyone was saying Eddie Murphy. No one said Beverly Hills Cop 3. Everyone was saying Eddie Murphy 3, Eddie Murphy 3, Eddie Murphy 3. What do I remember about it? What do I remember? Nothing. Because occasionally I like to watch Beverly Hills Cop 2. It's a bit of a classic movie. It's not perfect, but it's fun. It's got some quite good lines in it. It's interesting to watch. Judge Reinhold is Judge Reinhold, and I'm using paper rather than my phone. Doesn't look exactly great when I'm referring to the phone on camera with a phone. John Ashton and Judge Reinhold make a great team on camera. Great team. Now, what happened was Oh, what was my train of thought? My train of thought was, oh shit, my train of thought. John Ashton, now see, you've got 7 years later. Oh, that's, what did I remember from Beverly? Nothing. I remember absolutely nothing. I watched it once. I watched it at the cinema once. Maybe I'll hide it out when it was released on VHS. I don't think I did. I saw it once at the cinema. And let's just say I saw it once on VHS, once, twice. I did not go back to it since. There was a reason for that, because over the years I never remembered it, I never thought about it. It was always just the first one and the second one, and directed by John Landis. John Landis, with a budget of $50 million, made by Paramount Studios in 1994. John Ashton, he decided that Jerry Bruckheimer was not a part of the third one either, and a couple of the producers on it were not part of it, and John Ashton was already committed to another movie, Little Big League. He was committed to, I did look up this information just before I came down here. John Ashton was committed to Little Big League, and so he was not able to be a part of this schmozzle. He was not. He was not able to be a part of this mess of a movie, and I think probably when this movie was released, at the time when this movie was released, I wonder if John Ashton was thinking, oh my goodness, what's going on with this? Maybe he felt bittersweet that he wasn't part of it. Maybe he felt a bit, maybe he wanted to be part of it, but maybe upon seeing it, he was like, whoa. So I remembered nothing from it, nothing about it from the cinema, nothing. I just remembered it had been set in an amusement park. And I think maybe while the audience is watching, I mean, maybe when the anticipation for a film is so great, maybe at that time in 1994, maybe the audience did not see the crazy bad directing, like the really awful directing. Beverly Hills Cop 3 is an absolute mess. It is the worst of the three of them, and I would put it in the top 10 worst films ever made. It's one of the worst movies that I have ever seen. It doesn't cross. It sort of crosses that line and becomes very bad. Well, it's so bad. I just wanted to see how much. I kept watching to see how much worse that it could possibly get. It's like a weird. It's like a TV. I was trying to work out what was going wrong with this movie. The directing, for one. The cinematography and the lighting are completely off, totally and completely. The cinematographer, whose name was, I actually wrote his name down. Cinematographer was Mac Alberg. You can actually see the camera adjusting sometimes. There's a particular shots where the camera actually adjusts. And it's like, what's going on with this? What's going on? And from the start, from the word go. See, this cast hadn't seen each other in 7 years, about 7 years. And it's almost like, I'll just describe it how I saw it, like, they've partially forgotten their original characters, sort of. So they're just putting on fresh reactions, like trying to do fresh reactions. It's like Eddie Murphy's like, oh, I'm part of this. I've got to put in some effort. Judge Reinhold, he's an interesting guy. He's an interesting man. He's quite interesting to watch. Very quirky, extremely quirky. And Eddie Murphy in this, he overacts. It's weird. It is kind of weird. He overacts. It's like he's thinking, oh, I got involved in this. The second one was great. Why am I involved in this? Judge Reinhold, he overacts as well. It's weird. The acting in this is so weird. and the over-violence in it. There's too much over-violence. Like, with people, a lot of people being killed in this movie unnecessarily. I know. It's a shoot 'em up, almost cowboy movie. Like a shoot 'em up, almost in a sense. It's in the sense, it's still back in the 90s when, you know, kill everyone in the room, which is kind of unnecessary, but just do it anyway. And of course, the hero of the movie manages to escape the bullets, right? Especially when you got two guys with a machine gun there, and one guy's at the exit door here. Actual folly, any movies at the exit door and get the bullets, just miss him. And his boss gets. Okay, his boss, played by an African American guy. Don't remember what his name is, but Eddie Murphy's boss gets shot in this. And the acting in this movie, everything is really dreadful. And the cinematography is so off. And I'm watching this, and they're going for some kind of weird slapstick. Like, they're literally going for a slapstick humour in this. And I felt awkward. While I was watching this, I felt really awkward. It was just, everything was awkward. And the one-liners, and most of Eddie Murphy's lines are awkward. Bronson Pinchot from Perfect Strangers. He was in the first movie, he was in the second movie. He's kind of fun. He's seen, right? His scene is, it's fun. It's interesting. It's fun. I'm not. He was probably just thinking, oh, a paycheck, and he gets to catch up, because you could tell he had a good time in the. I don't know if it was in the first movie. I think it was the second movie. You could tell he had a good time in the second movie. You could tell he had a good time. I think it was in the first movie as well. You could tell he had a good time back with his old pals, Judge Reinhold and Eddie Murphy. I'm wondering where John Ashton is probably, but Bronson Pinchot. And who plays the love interest? I'll tell you who plays the love interest. Plays the love interest is Theresa Randall. She's a bit of a hottie. Theresa Randall. I liked her. She was good. My name is Johnny Wishbone, and I am a psychic extraordinaire from the island of St. Clair. Yes, my name is Johnny Wishbone, and I'm a psychic. Yes, my name is Johnny Wishbone, and I'm a psychic extraordinaire from the island of St. Clair. And your name is Lutz. So 5 more seconds I would have said it myself. And that's from Beverly Hills Cop 2. Beverly Hills Cop 2. You stole this house, didn't you, actually? You stole this house. What was I going to say? Lost my train of thought. I was talking about Teresa, who's the love interest. Oh, that's right. There's a scene, and this movie is set in an amusement park in Wonderland. Wonderland? It's set in an amusement park, which instantly happened to be shot at St. Clara, in St. Clair, up the coast in St. Clair, Santa Clara. An amusement park up there, because Knott's Berry Farm, Disneyland wouldn't give them permission, so they went to, and some of it was shot in the some was shot on Paramount Studios lot. Some was shot Paramount Studios film, yeah. But there's here you have the Ferris wheel, and you have the capsules, right? You have the capsules. You get the top part, and you got the bottom part, and you got the poles there, right? It's like the Ferris wheel. They didn't plan it very well. Eddie Murphy, there's these two kids, and the door comes open, and they're in danger. The whole film's in danger. The whole film was, Eddie Murphy is jumping from capsule to capsule, right? Trying to get to these kids, because what happens is the security, they're an interesting lot. the security, so much bad acting in this, so many sort of really bad acting. Was the director of this, John Landis, thinking, no, just hurry up and get this film so I can move on to the next one. The security folk, okay, there's a group of security guys, and what happens is they see that Eddie Murphy is on the Ferris wheel thing, he's in the thing, and one of the security guys demands that the Ferris wheel, it's not a Ferris wheel, whatever it's called, gets stopped. And there's the guy who is controlling it, the security guy walks over and the guy says, don't touch these controls, and he yells, get him out of there now. And the guy who's actually controlling the Ferris wheel is like, please don't touch these pictures, please don't touch any of this. He's like, get out of the way. He's like, ah. And then he wrecks it. The security guy, he's like, ooh, and he wrecks it, totally wrecks it. And the thing that really got me, you got about 200 extras. And I won't usually comment about the extras, but you got a crowd of 200 extras and they're like this. They're just staring. The camera's still, they're still. Eddie Murphy's jumping from carousel to carousel, and they're like this. Like this. Motionless. Like, all the same reaction, like, not just like this. Really, really bad acting. The whole thing is really bad acting. Everything. There was this one guy who plays Uncle Someone. He's Uncle Someone. He gets shot. He eventually gets shot. He's got grey hair. He's a very interesting guy. He was cool. It's just that it's all about look, Eddie Murphy, Beverly Hills Cop 3, Beverly Hills Cop 3, and the amusement park. It's a counterfeit money ring, right? And some of the top officials are actually involved in it. They're involved in it. The idea, the storyline, reasonable, good, reasonable, but the way that it was carried out, the way that they filmed it was not good. It was not good at all. And Eddie Murphy's acting in this is just, it's subpar. His heart wasn't in it. I can tell his heart wasn't in it. Judge Reinhold attempts to save the day, like, with some of his reactions are like a bit unnecessary. Like, I would have done a take two on that. This movie is really tragic. It's not a classic movie. It's probably one of the worst movies. It's one of the worst, but top 20. I said top 10 before. It's one of the top 20 worst movies ever made, and it's the worst in the trilogy. My goodness. And that's probably the reason why I never went back to it over the years, because I think it did not leave an impression on me at the time, back in 1994. It is, let me see how I'm doing for time. See how I'm doing for time. 18 minutes. And, you know, it's really cringeworthy when, it's really quite cringeworthy when Eddie Murphy asks his love interest in this movie, Teresa Randall. She's a hottie. She's quite attractive. She's good actor. But it's really cringeworthy when Eddie Murphy just acts following asks her out on a date, and the way that it's kind of really just, there is no, the smoothness of the first two movies ain't in this. They're not in this, and it's a real disaster piece. Beverly Hills Cop 4, and I was actually, out of mere curiosity, I didn't even know if there'd be a fourth one, and they've just made a fourth one, and I actually watched the trailer for it. I'm not excited by the trailer. I won't see it at the cinema. I'm not overly excited about it. Throughout the years, after Beverly Hills Cop 3, a disaster of that, and pretty much relying on the first two Beverly Hills Cop movies, Eddie Murphy went on to make Doctor Dolittle and the Nutty Professor, and coming to America to Shrek, and what else was there? I think a movie called Metro, because I looked some of these up last night. What else was there? Daddy Daycare, and there's I think Eddie Murphy even. I'm not too sure which one it was. It might have been the Nutty Professor where he plays most of the characters, and perhaps Eddie Murphy was more suited to playing really more quirky, eccentric roles that he did choose in later years. I'm just trying to think what the rest of the movies were. I just remembered the Nutty Professor, which is Jerry Lewis. I prefer the Jerry Lewis one. I might have to watch that one day. Probably Jerry Lewis, the Nutty Professor. Jerry Lewis. When I watched this last night, it put me on a real downer. I was going on a real downer and I watched a bad movie. I felt a bit depressed during it. I felt awkward, felt depressed. It wasn't smooth. Everything was wrong with it. Everything was bad about it. Almost felt like a TV movie. It was really badly shot. Dreadful. And everything about this movie is not good. Too much killing, too many machine guns. I continued to watch it just to see how much worse that it could get. How much worse does this movie get? And maybe when John Ashton saw it, maybe he said, "I'm glad I wasn't a part of that." I don't know. He probably felt bittersweet about it at the time. I don't know. But I'm thinking, gee, maybe I'm glad you weren't a part of it. Conclude this. Beverly Hills Cop 3, a big mess. Terrible movie, really badly done. It did take in a bit at the box office though. I didn't write down 30 million. I think it took in quite a bit. The only reason it took in quite a bit at the box office, right, it was because of how big the first two movies were. That's the only reason. I paid $3 for that. I should have paid 20 cents for it. Well, astonishingly bad. Astonishingly bad. Just oh my goodness. Anything else I want to add to it? Oh yeah, there's a new guy in this. He plays the chief. He plays the head chief inspector at the Beverly Hills Police Station, and I think he just decided to take the. I think the director. I don't know how it happened. I don't know who intended it to be, but this. I think it ended up being trying to be slapstick comedy, and it did not work for it at all. And the chief inspector, who from Beverly Hills Police Station, he was very casual about his position and didn't have very good lines to work with at all, and very casual movie, way too many machine guns, and everything set up like a comedy shot. I know it's a comedy, meant to be a comedy, but this movie does not work. Midnight Charlie Man. Thank you for watching. Beverly Hills Cop 3. No. No. Concluded.